news was leaked to us. God bless that person, whoever did the work of the people and leaked that information so we would know. Okay. And, okay! I will try!
I can hear fine.
I've been thinking a lot about how I came to be pro-choice. Because being of Mexican descent, being raised Catholic in Burley, Idaho, there's some unlearning that has to happen. And I am so grateful for the people who were patient with me and helped to deprogram me from being pro-life. That person was a woman by the name of Jen Ray. Back in the day, there used to be an organization called the Idaho Women's Network. And what was really beautiful about that organization was it brought all sorts of women together. Women who were pro-choice and women who were yet to become pro-choice.
Yeah.
And so this coalition brought us all together, and what the pro-choice organizations asked of the organizations that were not quite yet decided about that issue, they asked for us to remain neutral. And we did, because we realized we needed to be together as women. There were many issues that we needed to work on, and we couldn't have abortion be something that divided us. And so one day, I decided to staff the Idaho Women's Network booth at the Idaho Fair. And it was with Jen. And so Jen took a moment and she said, "So Lisa, can I ask you a few questions?" I said, "Sure. Why are you pro-life?" I said, "Well, you know, I have a very strong commitment to diversity, to civil rights, and a big part of that I owe to Martin Luther King Jr. And I guess I just think about, what if somebody were to end a pregnancy, and that is the next Martin Luther King Jr. or the next Rosa Parks?" And then Jen said something to me. She said, "Lisa, what if women had all the resources they needed so that they could provide enough food and shelter and clothing and education for the children that they have, so that every child has the potential to be Martin Luther King?" And as we know, in this state, we don't do that for our kids. We don't provide them enough food. We don't provide them the kind of education that they need. We're dead last in so many lists that really disprove our claims in this state that we care about families. The money is not there. That would be one way to show that we love our kids and our families. But, you know, we'd rather have it in the surplus, banked away, our tax dollars taken from us and not being used responsibly. I knew when I was 9 years old that I would not have children. And the reason I knew I would not have children is because when I was 9, I spent my summer potty training my 2-year-old little brother. And I had to do that because my mother was working 100 hours a week. So as a 9-year-old, I was doing the work of an adult. And I realized in that moment, why would I grow up to have a child if I need to have two? One to help me take care of the other. A 9-year-old should not be thinking about existential questions like that. I should have been out having fun and playing. And that was a long time ago. That was the recession I remember having a direct effect on my life. The other thing that Jen asked me about in that conversation, that very patient conversation, she said, "Lisa, has there ever been a time where you have had somebody make decisions about your body that you felt small?" And I said, "Absolutely. Between the ages of 4 and 9, I was sexually assaulted by 3 members of my immediate and extended family. And she said, what if the law made it so that a doctor would have a right to say to you, you have to have this baby? And all of a sudden I was triggered. I remembered that feeling of being a little girl and not having any say over what adults did to my body. And that's what we're contending with now. We're contending with women, people being forced to do what other people want them to do with their bodies. And we're not going to stand for it. Don't exactly have a record for being the most subtle. But like I said, having this memory of Jen being so patient and finding out why I took the stand that I took, and very gently and very logically explaining to me why she chose her stand. That's how I became pro-choice. That's what we all need to do. Because right now, we need all women. We need all people to come together. And if you have this skill, be patient. Talk gently to people. Find out why they take the stand that they do. Because I'm telling you, in those conversations is the key. I'm so grateful wherever Jen Ray is today. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for helping me see the light. And to all of those folks out there who are not yet pro-choice, we're waiting for you, but the clock is ticking. Hurry up!
Thank you so much, Lisa, for all your advocacy, your work, your tireless work. I see you in community. You're always in community. Thank you. All right, next we're going to hear from Deanna Messenger, our next speaker, who is a longtime member of the congregation Ahava. Okay, she's got it. She's a proud Jewish feminist and has been in the Boise community for over 40 years. Professionally, Deanna is a social worker who works with vulnerable folks. Let's give it up for Deanna.
About an hour and a half ago, so I have no real prepared remarks, but I'm both really, really heartened and really, really sad to be here. So about 30 years ago, we did this before. We came perilously close in Idaho to having the most restrictive abortion bill in the country. And this was under Governor Andrus, and many of us were at the State House for every night for weeks protesting. In fact, there's a law now that you can't burn candles at the State House, and we're the reason, because we were there with our candles and they passed the law saying So that bill was HB 625, and at that time it was the most restrictive abortion ban in the country. And Governor Cecil Andrus vetoed that bill. It passed the It's been a long time since we've had somebody like yeah, that's him. And I remember Jen Ray and Mary Rolfing and other teachers. We've had a lot of teachers in this community. Lee Flynn, who was the director of the Idaho Women's Network. My mother, so I'm a proud member of Congregation Ahava Beth Israel. So I'm a Jewish feminist, come from a long line of Jewish feminists. My mother, so my mother had an illegal abortion before I was born. After I was born, my mother had an illegal abortion after I was born, before 1973. So I have lived my life never knowing what it's like to have this restriction. But I have two children, both of childbearing age. One who's pregnant, and I'm also a grandmother. And I am so incredibly sad for people who have lost this right. I never had to contend with this during my childbearing age. So I'm so sad, and I'm so sorry that we didn't do better. And it's fucking bullshit. So, not enough. My mother had to go to Mexico. Her best friend drove her to Mexico. And, I was little, I didn't know. But I was told later that she developed an infection and became perilously close to, not being my mother anymore. And this is what we're talking about. Abortion won't go away, just safe abortion. So women have been demanding rights and taking charge of their bodies since we've been, people. Right, exactly. So we're not going to stop. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean women. People have been demanding that. People who give birth. So we're not going to stop. We're not going away. Hopefully my grandchildren won't have to deal with this, but I'm sorry that they do. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Jewish perspective. And I'm no rabbi, so this is from reading from various different sources. The women rabbis, my own rabbi here, Rabbi Dan Fink, of Congregational Havas Beth Israel. But here's the deal. So we are a very, very small minority, Jews, in this country and obviously in this community. And so we're used to being sort of, not having our views represented, especially here in Idaho. But we believe in something called religious freedom. Well, I thought we did anyway. And the Jewish perspective on personhood is that the Jewish word for soul is neshama, which means breath. So babies aren't people until they're born. So Jews don't believe that babies are people at conception. They believe that the Creator breathes their soul into them at birth. And until that time, they are part of the parent that carries them. So, thank you for talking about being Catholic, because we are being run by a Catholic caliphate, which is not to say that all Catholics... Yeah, okay. So, like Catholics and Christians, we Jews are not a monolith. We come in every political persuasion, from very, very liberal to very, very conservative. But according to Jewish tradition, living people take precedence over non-living people. And from the Jewish perspective, so in my tradition, once again, while babies grow inside their parent, they are not fully people until they take their first breath and receive the neshama from their Creator. So that's the perspective of my tradition. Let's see. So the last thing I want to say, penultimate thing I want to say is, in our tradition, we also have what's called tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. So we know in our tradition that we won't get there all at once. We know we aren't going to be perfect, but in our tradition, we are not excused from trying. So this is my voice trying to create, a better world, and tikkun olam, to repair the world. And really, what I want to say is, Lisa said gently, speak to people, help them understand gently. Young people, convince your friends to get out and vote. Voting fucking matters. the end. Losing our right to choose is not the end, it's the beginning. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid, and organize and get busy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deanna. You know what? With all the rising fascism, not just in this country, but in countries all over, we really, really need to listen to our Jewish relatives. Their history is important. I don't know who's yelling at me, but I just want you to know we're all better when we hear each other all at the same time. Just saying. All right, next up. Dr. Dwayne St Claire is a board-certified OBGYN who retired after practicing in Boise for 30 years. What's up, Dwayne? He has delivered thousands of babies and also is a skilled surgeon. He has been a lifelong advocate for reproductive rights and decided early in his practice that people facing the prospect of carrying an unplanned pregnancy to term needed a doctor with his training to provide a place where they would receive competent and non-judgmental counseling and care. Dwayne, can you come up here and talk with us?
I'm embarrassed to talk after these women. I'm not essentially speak. But I would like to give you somewhat a history of abortion issue in Idaho, at least in the medical profession.
We're working on it. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Yesterday, what a dark day for the women of our country. I doubt that any of us was naive enough to think that the battle over abortion rights was actually over. Wire coat hangers, catheters, ingesting poison, intentionally falling down stairs. There are fewer of us who remember those days when women felt compelled to use such extreme measures to accomplish what they felt was the best solution for themselves and their families. In our country, before Roe versus Wade, several hundred women died every year from complications of attempts to end unwanted pregnancy. That number doesn't even include the suicides. In 1966, when I was in my early medical training at the LA County Hospital, I cared for women with life-threatening medical conditions resulting from illegal and self-induced abortions. Some were too late. Tragically, some died from uncontrollable hemorrhage and infection. It was eye-opening and heartbreaking to see that women were willing to take the chance of death rather than carry an unwanted pregnancy to term. That is an experience that no one will ever forget. 1963, Roe v. Wade. What a momentous decision for women. Shortly after that decision, the OBGYN specialists in Boise were asked in a hospital meeting to declare which of them would be willing to see a patient seeking an abortion. Of the 15 physicians there, 8 of them said they would provide that care. I was the youngest OB/GYN practitioner and the only one in solo practice. Because other doctors would provide that care, I said I would not be including abortion in my practice, even though I completely supported, both morally and ethically, a woman's right to choose. I questioned whether society would ever understand physicians who did abortions. I also had a concern that my young children, ages 5, 6, and 9, might have difficulty understanding the complexity of the abortion issue. Only 3 months later, there was not one physician in Idaho who would see a patient requesting an abortion. This was because patients expressed disapproval that their doctors were providing that care. At that time, I realized that even though abortion was available in other states, and that there would be many women unable to afford the time or resources to travel, and that care in a large abortion clinic would be very impersonal. So I decided I would include abortion in my women's health care practice. That decision, unfortunately, included a great deal of hate mail, picketing of my office, and even the realization that I might be killed by a crazed right-wing zealot. I knew I had made the right decision, and I also realized how determined and malicious the anti-abortion activists could be. Because I felt so strongly about women's right to choose, I also was determined. No amount of harassment would stop me from providing the safe and competent and legal care that women deserve. Roe v. Wade saved women's lives, and it also preserved their dignity. In 2022, because of advances in patient care, safe and competent medical care needed by women with unwanted pregnancies will fortunately be easier to access than before Roe. It will be obtainable by those who have the skills and resources to navigate all the obstacles that are being proposed. I'm sure we all know it is the less resourced women who will continue to need our unwavering support. We cannot allow the Supreme Court to dictate what women choose to do with their bodies. Women have proven that they are the ones who are most capable of making appropriate medical decisions for themselves and their families. We must have to ensure that all women have the funds, transportation, and support to access all their health care needs, including abortions. I am a proud grandfather of 4 beautiful young women, and also a beautiful daughter. They deserve to make their own decisions regarding their bodies. And I am determined to continue advocating for their right to do so. Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I got goosebumps. The man is a legend. We need way more men like you, Dr. Dwayne St Claire. Yeah. Got a lot of feelings. All right. Next up is Bessie, the founder of the Idaho Abortion Rights. Bessie is an intersectional social justice activist and has served in the United States Army. Also co-organized this entire event, so don't be humble. All right, Bessie, cheers.
Hey, Boise! I am not a public speaker, but I'm going to be one tonight. My name is Bessie. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a partner. And for the protesters in the back, the counter protesters, I am a disabled veteran. I started Idaho abortion rights the day Governor Brad Little knowingly signed an unconstitutional bill into law. SB 1309. This bill incentivizes rape for a monetary prize. In both SB 1309 and SB 1358 allows civil lawsuits to be filed against medical professionals who perform abortions after a fetal heart activity is detected. I love it! When I started Idaho Abortion Rights, I wanted to create an intersectional community and space where all people, including BIPOC and the queer community, could collectively respond to these government attacks on our bodies. As a white, cisgender female, I needed to acknowledge my privilege in this space and offer support to those disproportionately impacted by abortion bans. Everybody needs to know their privilege in this space. I am a fellow community member. One day I decided I wanted to make a change and be part of the solution. Thank you! I hope today plants a seed in each of your minds that you too can stand up and create change and bring your community together. 10 years ago, I volunteered in a crisis pregnancy center. I deemed myself a Christian and thought it was my religious duty to save people from abortions. I thought abortion was murder. That wasn't until I survived 2 crisis pregnancies and domestic violence and experienced multiple rapes and learned firsthand why abortion is so important. It wasn't until I lived it in real time that I understood the real-life repercussions of trauma and the absolute need for abortion care. A little bit more about Idaho abortion rights. We are an abortion mutual aid, which means that donations given to us go to fund abortions in legal states. That is what we exist to do, and we will be getting people access to abortions in legal states and funding them to do so. And we will be depending our community to do that. Please donate to IdahoAbortionRights.com, Planned Parenthood, and the Northwest Abortion Access. And let's see here, I never imagined this organization would grow to this magnitude. We'd have to face this very real reality today, where we would even have to need. I am sorry, guys, we have a Nazi up in here. would grow to this magnitude or that we would have to be here in this very real reality where we would even need to do what some would call an underground network for abortion access. We know this is a very scary time in the history of this country. This isn't what I signed up for in the military, and this isn't the country I recognize that is about freedom and liberty. We've got some hard days ahead. I'm so proud of all of you for standing up for abortion access and pushing back against Idaho's legislators and the Supreme Court. I truly believe today will go down in Idaho's history as the single most monumental day ever, where the citizens of Idaho banded together and told our local and federal government that we won't go back.
Bessie, thank you so much. And in the words of Lizzo, bye, bitch! Next up is the co-founder of Idaho Abortion Rights, Kimberly Luna. Kimberly is a lifelong activist. Their brothers call them Lisa Simpson. You get it. Growing up, they are part of the LGBTQIA community, me too, non-binary fan. Born and raised in Nampa, Idaho, my personal favorite city in this state. Let's hear it from Kimberly!
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm Kimberly Luna. I am the co-founder of Idaho Abortion Rights. My pronouns are they, them. And like I said, I was born in Nampa, Idaho. So 2C represent. Anybody here from Nampa? I was raised going to church, and at church they led me to believe that abortions were murder. Boom! Yes. Once I became pregnant with my first pregnancy when I was 18, my beliefs changed. I went to one of those fake religious clinics in Nampa, and they tried to convince me to keep the baby. I left crying because I knew I was not ready to have a baby. I hadn't even had a job yet. Back then, we didn't have the internet like we do now, and I didn't even know that Planned Parenthood was a thing. I had never even heard of it. A week later, I ended up having a miscarriage, and it was the most relieved thing that ever has happened to me in my life. I ended up breaking up with that boyfriend because I felt that he hadn't supported me in my decision to have an abortion, and he didn't want to help me do that. Fuck that guy. Many years later, after marriage and kids, I did end up having an abortion. I didn't want to keep growing my family. I was done having kids, and birth control had failed me. That happens sometimes, and to me, it's actually happened twice. At the time, I lived in New York City. I had very easy access to an abortion. I made an appointment, I went straight to the clinic, a few days later, took some pills, and it was great. I hope that that abortion access in Idaho will be that easy for people here someday. Politicians and their wives, daughters, mistresses, and other women in their lives will always have access to abortions. They have the means to send a person on a plane, to book hotel rooms, and to book an abortion with any provider anywhere in the world if they need to. That is unfair. This is a war on all womb-having people, but it is more heavy on the poor and disproportionately affects the Black, Brown, Indigenous, people of color, and the LGBTQ communities. Criminalizing abortion has the sole purpose of keeping people trapped in poverty for generations. And fuck that. In Idaho, abortion will be criminalized in July 24th of this year. Boo! If this was really about children and parents, then why is there not funding for childcare? Right? Then why do we in the U.S. have some of the the worst maternity and infant care in the world. Then why do we not have comprehensive sex education? Why do we not have free birth control? Why do we not have months and months of maternity leave when we have a baby? These pro-lifers do not give a shit about children or mothers or families. This has nothing to do with children and parents and everything to do with oppressors continuing to oppress us for their political agendas. Over the past 3 years, I have supported close to 100 people in the community here in Idaho in getting funding through having their abortions that they needed. I did this through my own personal needs, through my social media accounts. I would just ask people straight up, hey, Venmo me money, I'm gonna help a person have an abortion, and people would send me money. Thank you so much to all of the people who have done that and supported me over the years. When Bessie approached me about creating Idaho abortion rights, it was an automatic yes, because I was very aware of the high need that we have for people to get access to abortions in Idaho. Idaho abortion rights will continue to be a resource for Idahoans to get access to safe abortions and keep you updated on where you can get access and how to get access. We are also a resource on who to vote for in the next elections. So be sure to follow us on Instagram, turn on your notifications, because we will be showing you all of the pro-choice leaders here in the Valley throughout Idaho so that you can know who exactly to vote for and who wants to protect your right to have a choice. The SCOTUS decision was a major blow to reproductive health, patient safety, and health equity in our country. It's a human rights issue, it's a racial justice